Greetings, Taku Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to bring you all the return of the top 5 video segment right here on Otaku Assemble! Weekly, and finally, here to bring you all the return of the top 5 video segment. Now, before I jump into this week's top 5 list, I want to go ahead and give you all a brief update about the OAW uploading schedule. For those of you all who decided to stick around to the end of my Legend of Korra Season 2 review, you all got the first announcement that for the next couple of weeks, I am going to be uploading videos daily. Now, what videos can you expect in that time? Well, first off, this video is going to kick off the return of the top 5 video segment. Tomorrow, you can expect to see my discussion of the week video segment return, followed by the return of the Arrow episode reviews, Vikings episode reviews. I'm going to start kicking off weekly live streams on Friday nights, on Friday nights, followed by the Black Sails episode reviews, and then wrapping everything up with the return of Advice Corner. And with that being said, this is what I need from the Otaku Faithful. First off, to those of you all who have already emailed Advice Corner topics that I have yet to discuss, send me an email at otakuassemble@gmail.com. Let me know if you still would like for me to discuss your Advice Corner topic. And for those of you all who have yet to do so, please shoot me an email at otakuassemble@gmail.com. Leave your topics, any advice you guys might need, where you think I might be able to help you out. Please shoot those to me in a private email, and that'll kick off Advice Corner. So, with no other further ado, let's go ahead and let's jump into this week's top 5 list. Now, I decided in preparation for this video, I went back to my last top 5 video and started perusing the comments, and although I did not see a comment that was the most thumbed up, this one immediately called out to me as soon as I read it, and clearly it's from one of my viewers who remember me mentioning in the past that I am a huge fan of mobster and gangster films. So they left a suggestion for me to give you all my top 5 favorite mob movies. And starting off the list at number 5 is none other than Martin Scorsese's The Departed. Now, for those of you all who have yet to see The Departed is actually an American adaptation of the Chinese film Infernal Affairs, and it pretty much tells the story of 2 cops who are working on opposite ends in regards to the local crime syndicate. Now, in The Departed, we have William Costigan Jr., who is actually working as an undercover for the, it's not Boston PD, it's the Boston Stadies. He's actually working as undercover for them. On the opposite end of that spectrum, we have what is Colin's last name? Colin Sullivan, played by Matt Damon, who is working as a rat for the crime syndicate, and he's actually one of the sergeants working within law enforcement. And the film also stars Mark Wahlberg, Alec Baldwin, Martin Sheen, and then last but absolutely in no sense of the term least, the always fabulous and eccentric Jack Nicholson. So so why did it make the top 5 list? Well, first and foremost, I'm a huge fan of Martin Scorsese. Love his films. I love his films, and I really did dig the story. I liked how we worked with, how the film deals with this assortment of characters, this vast cast of characters, and they all got their different personalities, which really shine in the film. That's one of the best things I can say about the film is the characterization, the handling of the characters, how they each are so distinct and so their own, and the actors do a great job at embodying that and bringing that to to the forefront of the film, but at the same time, just the story, just the intrigue, the twists and turns, and to this day, that film still has one of the most shocking endings I've ever fucking seen. I'm not going to spoil it for those of you all who have not seen the film, but the ending. I remember first time I saw it, I'm in my dorm room and I'm folding my laundry, and it was one of those films, like it was just playing in the background, and at first I was barely paying attention to it, but I kept looking back and I kept looking back and I couldn't stop, and after that ending I was like I couldn't take my eyes away from it. So yeah, love The Departed. Great film. If you guys have not seen it yet, I highly recommend it to anybody. If you're a fan of mob movies or not, I highly recommend it to anybody. And hell, it won an Oscar for Best Picture, if that means anything to anybody. Alright, so number 4 on the list, another great favorite of mine, Donnie Brasco. Now, Donnie Brasco is actually a docudrama. It's based off of a true story. And of course, the characters' names have been changed and whatnot to protect their identities and whatnot. But Donnie Brasco stars Johnny Depp, who plays he plays an FBI agent named Joe Pistone. Yeah, Joe Pistone. Joe Pistone is going undercover under the alias of Donnie Brasco to infiltrate a mob family in New York in the 1970s. And the film also stars Al Pacino in what I think is one of his best mob roles. I even put his performance of Lefty in Donnie Brasco over his performance of Tony Montana. That's how much I like it. Cause I just think he brings so much I don't know, just so much sincerity to the role of Lefty. Whereas, Tony Montana, of course, it's an iconic character. Everybody knows Scarface. But I don't know, there's something about Left that there's heart there. And there's so much character there. You know what I mean? But anyway, so yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the gist of the film. It follows Joe as he's going undercover in this mob family. And throughout the course of the film, we see him get deeper and deeper into the crime life, because he gets engaged. The crew that he's engaged in, they're working up the ladder of the family, but also because of his friendship that develops between him and Left, he really does get involved in his work, and he finds himself sooner or later it's actually taking over his life. All in all, it's a great film. If you guys haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it. Fantastic. Some of my favorite lines in cinema are from that film. Like the whole exchange between him, between Johnny Depp, Paul Giamatti, and I forget the third actor's name, but when they have that whole skit about, hey Joe, what's forget about it? And then Johnny Depp goes into this whole monologue about what forget about it means. One of my favorite scenes. I love that scene. Sometimes it just means forget about it. I tell you what though, I don't get this vote for Lefty. What? Forget about it? Fucking forget about it. I love that scene. Alright, so number 3 on the list. We're going back to Martin Scorsese with this one. Goodfellas. Once again, another docudrama based off of a true story, and Goodfellas tells the story of Henry Hill, who was an associate of the I don't think it was the Cambino crime. I forget what crime family it was that he was an associate of, but pretty much Hank Hill was an associate who, one of the bottom tier guys who worked for one of the 5 families in New York back during the I think the what was it, the 60s and 70s was when he was an adult. He was affiliated with them since he was a teenager, but like the 60s and 70s where the film mostly takes place, it just follows his story with that. And it stars Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, has a cameo by Samuel L. Jackson. Who else is in that film? I'm trying to... Lorraine Bracco. And who else is in there? There's a lot of great actors in that film, all in all. So why did it make the top 5 list? It's a classic, hands down. Anybody who tells you they're a fan of mob pictures, they'll mention Goodfellas on that list. One of Scorsese's most iconic films. Once again, another favorite film of mine. One of the most quotable films I've ever seen. I mean, so many scenes, so much line of dialogue. Me and my buddy Bryce, we will quote Goodfellas to no end. Going back and forth. And I mean, some really great performances. Ray Liotta, I mean, kills it. Robert De Niro is... You know what? Actually, this is something I can say about Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro, and Joe Pesci's performances in this film with their respective characters. At any point in the film, they can go from being comical to sympathetic to frightening. I'm talking about downright terrifying, you know. And another thing about Goodfellas, to the film's credit, is it really does encapsulate and capture some of the real world events that happened within the mob family during that time. You know, when they talk about the hits, when they talk about, you know, when they would extort people and some of the things they used to do, some of the jobs they used to pull off with the crimes they were doing and all that. Goodfellas does a really good job. Now, granted, it does some, at some points it does romanticize it, I think, a bit. Which I remember Scorsese saying in an interview that was never his intention. He wanted to show how gritty it really was. But I think that whole romanticization thing, I mean, that was just bound to happen when you have, you know, 3 of the most charismatic actors in Hollywood on your set, you know, as your stars on the cover of your film, you know. So, but love Goodfellas, love it. All right, so number 2. And any of you guys, especially the one who suggested top 5 favorite mob movies, you know what my number 2 and my number 1 is going to be. But what actually might surprise you guys is the order in which I put them. Number 2, believe it or not, is The Godfather Part 2. Yeah, Part 2. Now many people, and I am one of those who consider The Godfather Part 2 not only the greatest sequel ever made, but the greatest film ever made, period. And I am one of that number. I am of that mindset. The Godfather, in my opinion, even the 3rd film, I regard as 3 of the greatest films ever made. Number 2 takes the cake. This is the quintessential coup de grace standard for cinema, in my opinion. Down from the writing, to the acting, to the editing, to the cinematography, to the sound mixing. I'm talking about every component that makes a film complete. The Godfather franchise sets the standard, in my opinion, in my personal opinion. Now, Godfather Part 2 continues the story of Michael Corleone, who in the 2nd film is the Don. He is the head of the Corleone crime family. What Part 2 offers to us, for you know, fans of The Godfather, and for, you know, people who see it for the first time, who may have saw the first film, what it offers is 2 main things. Number 1, we get to, well, okay, most importantly, we get the stories of the rise of Vito Corleone, who was the original Godfather in the first film, and Michael, parallel. Because throughout the film, while Michael is ascending his power and while he is consolidating business deals and things of that nature abroad, we get flashbacks of Vito, how he starts off in the life, how he rises to prominence, how he starts his family and makes his way to America. We get all of that, and it's beautifully. It's a beautiful tapestry how they worked that material in the film together, how they parallel to each other, how they compare and contrast. But what the 2nd film offers is we get to see Michael as the head of the family, and like I said, he goes abroad. We get to see him operate the majority of the film in Reno, Nevada, and in Havana, Cuba. And the main conflict of the film is about Michael taking over a major empire from an old gangster named Hyman Roth, who has treated Michael in some sense as a successor. However, Hyman Roth has plotted Michael's assassination. And so throughout, and that's the dual conflict of the film, is Michael trying to take over this empire while at the same time trying to snuff out those who seek his doom. And I mean, man, I don't know what else can be said about that film. If you have not seen it, believe you me, you will not hurt my feelings at all if you stop this video right now and go and watch this movie. I'm dead serious. I would actually I can't command you, but I can beg and plead with you. If you have not seen The Godfather Part 2, please stop this video right now and go and check it out. If you watch my videos, if you're a fan of my channel, if you respect my opinion, if you heed my word and you like my recommendations, I cannot recommend this film enough. There is only but one film I would recommend more than The Godfather Part 2, and that is the #1 on my top 5 favorite mob movies list, and that is the original Godfather, #1. Now, a lot of you are wondering, I just said that Part 2 is a better film than Part 1. So why would the first one be my absolute favorite? Well, it's simple. #1, it was the first one I saw. I was actually, granted, I did not see the Godfather films until I was in college, my freshman year in college. My first month in college was when I saw it. And a funny thing is, I was actually introduced to the Godfather films through the video game, The Godfather, the Dawn Edition for PlayStation 3. That's how I played the game first before I even saw the film. But I saw the first film, and I absolutely fell in love with it. Now, yes, like I said, I admit the second one is better than the first. But let me tell you why I like the first. It was the first one. It was my introduction. I always liked the characters in the first film better than the ones in the second. And that's not to say that the second has poor characters, because it doesn't. But because I had already played the video game and I was already fairly familiar with these characters, and besides, the video game, if you guys haven't checked it out, for any of you guys who are fans of the Godfather franchise, check out the video game, because they do a very interesting thing with the main story of the video game, that made my love for the film all that much richer. The characters in the first film that we don't have in the second film. You talk about Clemenza. You're talking about Tessio, the Capo Regimes. You're talking about Santino, Sonny, one of my favorite characters in the whole franchise. So actually, I liked Sonny before I even liked Michael. And the second I saw the film and Sonny was introduced, I immediately was like, yeah, I like that guy. Santino. You had the heads of the 5 families, you know, Cuneo, Stracci, the 5 families. Hang on a minute. Corleone, Coolio, Stracci, Tattaglia, and Bazzini. You had the heads of the 5 families. You had Luca Brasi. Who was another character who was in the first that wasn't in the second? Tom's in all of them, except for the third. Tom's not in the third. Yeah, and then Bo. Hang on a minute though. But my number one biggest reason for loving The Godfather, #1, Marlon Brando. One of his most famous portrayals in his illustrious career as Don Vito Corleone. Marlon Brando owns that role. I'm sorry. Now, don't get me wrong. Robert De Niro does a fantastic job as young Vito in the second movie. But Marlon Brando, man, I mean, that's an actor of all actors. You know what I'm saying? You know, we're talking about the Daniel Day-Lewis of his time. So, yeah, Marlon Brando, man, as Vito. But man, dude, You talk about the writing, you talk about the cinematography, the way they use those darks, man. Coppola really did a great job with that film. And once again, I cannot recommend it enough. It's one of my all-time favorite films. Not just my #1 favorite mob movie. It's one of my top 5 favorite films. Period. The Godfather. Love it. If you have not seen it, do yourself a favor. Turn this goddamn video off and go see it. I cannot recommend it enough. So, with that being said, that's going to conclude my top 5 favorite mob movies. In the comments below, let me hear some of your favorite mob movies, as well as some of your thoughts on the films I mentioned in this video. And last but absolutely positively not least, leave your suggestions for topics for next week's top 5, and thumb up the one you want to see the most. The one that gets the most thumbs up will be the one most likely to get chosen. What you can keep an eye out for, well, actually, no. I'm going to close this out with a new closing. So, this has been Larry Williams, Commander-in-Chief, signing off. Thanking you all for joining me this week. And feel free to join me tomorrow for the return of the Discussion of the Week video segment, where I will be discussing my thoughts on interracial relationships. And this has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, signing off. And until next time, peace.